I just posted a link there for the Git for Windows download. If any of you are using Windows, it's a really convenient installer. Works really well.
Yeah, I have the. Are you talking about the desktop app?
Yeah. There's a desktop app, and it comes with all of the Git Bash stuff and adds context menus so that when you're in a Git repository, if you like context click or right click in the folder area, you can actually just select Git Bash here, and it'll open a Git Bash in the current directory. It's got some really convenient ways to access the Bash.
By bash, you mean the command line?
Yes. And honestly, I recommend getting very familiar with the command line utilities. The GUI is nice, but I find it a little limited in scope. You can do a lot more with the command line.
Right. You strike me as a command line type of guy, Mark.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm referring to your presentation,
Oh, great. Yeah.
your modification of the implementation of the library.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you use a PC at work?
I use both. I have a MacBook that I'm using right now to talk to you guys, and then I have my PC set up over here too because we do a lot of I do a lot of web development on Windows servers, so
Okay.
I like to have access to both environments for web development.
Gotcha.
I don't actually. I had Git on my Mac here, and so I started a remote desktop connection to my Windows machine because I can't find what I did with it. So I was going to demonstrate a couple things, but I don't know if I can share that
Mhm. Gotcha.
screen, but I might give it a shot.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be great to see kind of a demonstration. Um, while you experiment with that, just want to say hi to Chris and Wing. Um, and Wing, do you wanna talk a little bit about just kind of bring everybody who wasn't part of the first conversation or the past conversations up to speed?
You mean episode 2 or something else?
Yes, episode 2.
Okay, this is the plan for the first two meetings in February and early March. Um, I would like to change the format a little so that well, first I won't do a lot of preparation so that I won't give you code to to read or to try because I mean the code won't work. Um, Once we get beyond the basics, all the code I wrote would have a lot of business logic built into the scripts, so it won't work for you. That's why I can still supply you the script to read, but you still need to build your own scripts to incorporate your own business logic into your scripts. So I would rather write some simple code with you, and we'll talk about for example how to retrieve a user, how to modify a user, for example set the password, or make a user join a group, things like that. But beyond that, you still need to write your own script, write your own, well, build your own business logic into your script to make it work. But I would make a lot of suggestions how to create a new site using web services, how to work with data definitions, how to well, I will make suggestions and I will write code and I'll explain things why I do things in a certain way for your reference. But I hope we'll have more interactions while we are doing this. so that everybody will be at least like trying to write some code and like run some code while we meet.
Okay. Oh, so okay. So you're talking about the next hangout in February?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
because we'll spend quite some time writing code together, so I will split the first, well, first we'll talk about like users, groups, roles, and maybe a little bit about like creating new sites. And then the second part, we'll talk about everything else like workflows, things like that. It all depends, okay? Depending on like how well we handle like the code writing part. And then I will address what you have been like asking about and about what Mark is going to talk about as a tree traversal. And that will probably take us like 3 meetings if we really want to get into the details.
Okay, guys. I've only got about 10 minutes here. I'm sorry. I have a meeting at 2 o'clock Central Time here that I'm going to have to go to. Big project meeting, good stuff. How many of you currently use Git for version control?
I do.
You do, okay.
Yes. I don't, but I'm familiar with it, and we use it at Reed.
Okay, all right. So not everybody is completely new to it. So I posted a couple of links there in the chat just for resources. The first one is just the download installer for, the Windows installer. The second one is actually just the documentation. There's so much documentation, so you're not going to read through that all anytime soon. But basically, I just was hoping that we could talk about, getting the library, Wings library on Git, so we can all make our contributions that way, and just kind of keep an accurate record of the changes that are made and all that stuff. So I was just going to, if it's okay with everyone, I was going to give a quick demonstration on just the most basic features, but I need to figure out how I can share my screen, and I want to see if you guys are going to be able to see this. So I have a remote desktop connection open. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So can you guys see my text editor and my command line window?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. So in this window here, I just have an index page that's including my forms loader class and then an options array. I'm not going to get into that, but just one of the main benefits to using Git is I have a Git bash here opened in the directory where this file exists, and if I say Git status, I can see that my branch is up to date with GitHub/public. This branch or this repository is actually on the GitHub website. So if you don't have an account on GitHub, I recommend going ahead and creating that. Basically telling me also that there's nothing to commit because I have no changes. So what I'm going to do really fast is just make a change. Oops. Save that. If I run git status again, you can see that I have one change that's not staged for commit. Now at this point, I have an option. I can stage it for commit, which means I can add it to the basically the index that says it's going to. I'm happy with the changes that I've made here, and I wish to commit them permanently. Or I can look at the difference by typing get diff, and it'll show me the line numbers and the where the changes were made in that file, and you can see it here, syntax highlighted in green, which is really cool. If I'm unhappy with these changes, I can just go ahead and check out file, and what that'll do is check it out from the existing repository. And if you'll notice in the file on the left, once I check this out, it's actually going to revert back to the original. So did you guys see that?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So in the same way, if I'm deciding I'm going to go ahead and hack up Wing's library, and I'm going to just go ahead and build a whole new, completely separate thing, what I might want to do is create a new, what we call branch. And that new branch will allow us to commit changes to it and track all of our changes without affecting the master branch. And so I can say get checkout branch, and then I'll name it. And it says switched to a new branch. And so you can see here I have my new branch. If I look at the status, I can see there's nothing really changed, but if I make this change, I'm going to save that. It says, oh, you modified this page. So what I want to do is I want to add, you can say all files with the dot, or I can just add individual files. And it's going to tell me that I've modified that, and it's ready for commit. So if I want to commit this and add that to the repository so that other people can view that, I can say get commit, add a message, and then it'll commit it. And then when I look at my log, you can see the very top of that log, it has a commit ID, which allows me to look at information regarding that commit. And if I look at list of branches, I can see that I have a couple of branches here. Now, at this point, that's committed to my new branch, but if I go back to the original branch, we'll notice I'm back on the master branch, and if you look at the file on the left, the change doesn't exist. But if I want to look at my branch with my changes, I can check out that branch and the changes exist. So this is, I'm going to go ahead and come back to, so I can see everybody. So this is a really great way to track changes across multiple files. And at some point, when I'm ready, I'm happy with my changes, I can do what's called a push. And I can do a push to the remote repository, which in our case would likely exist on GitHub, because it's free to have public repositories there. You know, if we wanted to have them private, you know, you can always pay for that. But basically, we could push those changes up, and then whoever is the originator of the repository or the owner of that repository can then choose to accept or, you know, deny those changes being added to the repository. So basically, it works in that way where you check out a repository. Basically, you make changes. You know, it tracks those changes, and then allows you to push them back up and get basically added to the project or not. And at that point, you could, the owner, for example, say we add a new feature to the library. Wing looks at it and says, "Oh, that's great. I love it. It's perfect. We've tested it. It works really great." At that point, what he can do is he can merge the changes from, in my example case, new branch. He can merge them into public branch, or in most cases, it'll be called master. And at that point, it becomes part of the master branch for other people to pull down and look at. So that's a really broad, overview of sort of how it works. And unfortunately, I have to go now. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I was just going to say, I think that, thank you, Mark. I guess what would you recommend as the next step if Wing and everybody, wanted to go forward with this?
I think the next step would be for Wing to create the repository on GitHub, and from his local machine, he can push the current version of the library. He can do an initial push to the repository. Once the repository exists, he can send us all the link to what's called clone. There's a clone link, and there's actually a clone method in Git that you can just use from the command line. You can say git clone, put in the URL, and it will actually pull down that Git repo and all of its associated versioning, which with an initial push, there's only going to be one record, and that's the initial commit, because you have to create the repository and then make at least one commit, and usually people just call it initial commit. But that'll pull down, and then everybody will be able to clone it to their local machine. So that would be the next step if we wanted to sort of implement, Git version control with this library. If you all don't have a link to mine, you can play with it by, I'll paste in the link. Once you've created your accounts and everything, go ahead and find me on GitHub, and then you can sort of look at some of the projects that I have out there, and you can clone them and hack the code and make pull requests and just try to experiment with how it works. And then of course, the next time we meet, I think we'll be able to maybe spend a little more time talking about it. But for this session, I know a few of you are already using Git, so maybe at this point you can sort of take the lead and maybe start some discussion. Christopher, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so I know that you're using Git, and Eric, you're using it some. So yeah, what's up? Oh, okay. So is everybody okay with that? I'm sorry I have to bolt so early.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll be looking forward to the next the next version of this hangout, so that we can maybe talk a little more about it. So.
Okay, great.
Cool. Mark. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.
So, Wing, what do you think?
I still don't know how to use the command line tool. Well, probably I need to download it and play with it. But right now I don't have any idea.
I'll get there's a visual client. Hold on, called Source Tree. All one word. Did you guys get that?
Yeah, I use GitHub's GUI client. Is it like that, or is that different?
It's actually, I did try GitHub's, but I found GitHub too aligned with the console, like being in the terminal. So I really didn't feel like that was an improvement. Like the visual one allows me to just work more efficiently, and it has a lot of all the command assets of the command line, so you're not really missing out. There might be a few things that take used to looking at, like the logs and other things, but the source tree one is a little bit more robust as far as a visual tool. Pointing and clicking and stuff like that. You don't really have to do a lot of keyboard keystrokes to get the work done. And I use it heavily. Sadly, I don't know much, and when it comes to doing stuff in the command line, but it would take me a little while to figure out.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like the GUI better than the.
Oh yeah.
I think that for me the commands aren't as intuitive.
No, they're not, and it's a little time consuming when you're like, oh, I forgot that command. How do I do that? With source tree, it's very intuitive, and you can just jump right in. And I was surprised how fast I was able to learn how to do things that I didn't know how to do in the terminal. So it's helpful in that way. But it does have that option. There's a little button on the top right-hand side where you can open up the command line right to that specific project that you're in. So if you prefer that, it's there.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be great, but it's obviously it's up to you, Ling, if it's something you're comfortable with.
It doesn't matter. I just need something to start with.
Try source tree. I highly recommend it. You'll pick it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So you probably, does Ling need to create a GitHub account first and then use source tree?
I already have an account.
Oh.
Just create a space for it on GitHub, and then open up source tree, grab the URL of the GitHub, whatever GitHub provides you for the repository's URL, and then walk through source tree to kind of set that up. If you need help with that, I can definitely talk you through it. It's really simple.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's disconnected in a way. First, you have to go to GitHub, the website, create the repo there, and then GitHub will generate the URL for it. So once you have that, then just open up source tree, and it'll say create a new repo from remote host, and then you just dump that in, and it takes care of everything for you.
Okay, I'll try that.
And then push the code. You push the code up that way. At first, you'll have an empty repo. So once you decide where you want to store it on your local computer, and then push it up to the remote, that's how you do it. And source tree is simple. It'll probably take you no more than 5 minutes to accomplish.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, quick question, Chris.
Yeah.
So for those of us who are sort of going to be downloading the library,
Right. Or cloning it.
Cloning it. Yeah, that's good to use the terminology. Would we have to what's involved once? Let's say we clone it for the first time.
Well, okay, it's the same steps as I described in setting up the repo that Wing will be doing, is that you basically grab the URL and then you're going to create a new repository on your local machine. So it's the same thing. Create the new repository, pick a directory where you want to plop it, and then there's actually in source tree, and I'm probably going to be referencing source tree from now on, but at the top there is a clone button. So you hit that, clone from remote repository, paste the URL in there, and then go. And it'll just pull all the code down and dump it into that directory. And when it's done, it's kind of cool because it opens up a separate window specific to that repo. So if you have multiple repos going at a time, like other projects and stuff, it'll open that one specifically so that you get a nice flow chart of all the branches and who is working on what, kind of like a log of what's going on. And then you know that you're ready to go at that point with the project. But again, very simple, very intuitive, and I don't think you'd have too much trouble getting started. The real hang-ups with it are like sometimes if the repository is password protected and there's some kind of authentication that needs to happen, you might run into some problems there. But that you just have to dig around into the configuration and add your username, and then it'll always prompt you for the password the first time around. So I think that sums it up.
Cool.
And I'm open if I'm open to questions if anybody needs help with it. I'm definitely familiar with playing around in source tree.
Stu, what do you think?
His microphone's off.
His microphone's muted, huh? Okay.
I've done that many times, had it on and start talking and don't realize it until afterwards.
Well, Chris, I mean, the what you described sounds a lot simpler than what I currently do every time Wing puts out updates his library. I go in and delete, or actually I archive the current folder, and then download the new one. And
oh wow, that's extra steps for you.
It sounds like this would be a lot easier. And
it is, because I mean you have that visual, like when you see it, you'll see there's like little train tracks on the left in colors. So every branch has its own color, and every commit has its own like little status dot. So you get that visual reference of where your project is compared to what everybody else is doing. And for me, I don't know if you guys are visual people, but for me, it's a lot easier to see where I left off, so I'm not sure I'm going to archive this folder and start new. The flow is a little bit easier, and that's the thing with another hang-up with the command line is that you really don't get a lot of visual prompts in a linear sense, not so much in a log sense. And logbooks, you guys probably know, are a pain in the neck to look at and plow through.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
personally, I love the diff capability. I mean, just seeing very clearly the files that are edited, what's been removed, what's been added, and it gets very specific to the lines, and it's beautiful. It makes it really easy to see exactly what's been done and when, and you can just go back and see the different commits and see exactly the changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that really incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing that's a free software to use. All you have to do is register with SourceTree or whoever produces it. But yeah, it's really robust. I think with that kind of software, it definitely made me feel more comfortable in using it and integrating it in my projects rather than Git. I don't want to use that.
Well, now here's a question: what if, let's say, somebody wants to download his library but isn't comfortable with GitHub? Can they still from GitHub just download the static?
Yeah, they create a zip file for each project. So there's a little button below the clone URL area, and you just click on that. It'll give you a zipped up file of the most recent header of the project. So you're getting the most recent snapshot of release of that software.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool. I think it's worth trying.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. In our office, using it with other developers, it definitely it'll get messy. Sometimes you'll get into a situation where your local one is behind or not merged correctly, and it creates a lot of commit errors, and it won't allow you to commit up to the repo when you're in your own branch. And I think a lot of developers will get a little hesitant and be like, I'm just going to start all over again. You have to work through the process of making sure that your code happily merges with the code that's already up there. And I think that protection layer is not meant to make you, the developer, feel like you're doing a bad job, but to make sure that everybody is happy and merging happily. So I can't think of a better way to explain it, but it definitely, when you have 3 or 4 people working on a code base and you're all doing different things, it's so much nicer to have all those things come together, because everybody has something really good to contribute. And if those things collide and you're not using a version manager, it can be a real pain in the neck to manage just the code, get it in the right places and make sure everybody is getting their contribution in there. So I think in the long run, you guys will notice that, like, wow, this is so easy. Why haven't I used this before? There's another thing that was it Mark? No, didn't. Yeah, Mark didn't mention was that there's also the aspect of forking, which is kind of like branching.
So what's the difference between the two?
Okay, the forking is more like if, let's say, I like your project, and I like where it's going, but I kind of want to have some instances that kind of stand alone or make my own version of the library. That it's, let's say the project is getting a little beyond the scope of what Wing is doing, and you want to create a whole business library package to go with it. That's where you would kind of fork it. Another use case would be security reasons. If you want to lock out some people from committing to the master branch, and then have a what they call a pull request. And a pull request, what that does is it gives one person, so Wing, in this case it would be Wing, who is the master of the library, and he would control who could send up their commits and who couldn't, based on his criteria. So you'd have to meet his criteria as far as quality, coding standards, and all that other stuff, but he would judge that and say, okay, this is great, let me put it up and commit it to the thing. So you, instead of like what Mark said, instead of committing your branch to the repository, you would do a pull request. It's saying, hey, Wing, I want to commit my code. I've come to a stopping point. I want to commit my code. Do you approve? Type of a thing. And Wing can say yes or no based on a, and then Wing can also send a message back to the person saying, do this, this, and this, and the next time you commit up, I'll submit it to the repo as a final staged item. So
that sounds like that would be the typical workflow.
Right. A branch, in contrast, a branch would allow pretty much anybody to commit. There's no control over what's going on, and that would mean more management on Wing's part to do cleanup after everybody, 5 or 6 people do a dump to do it. Yeah, so it's just more work. I think I set our student worker up with a fork and showed her how to do it, and then she started making pull requests to me so that I could do a code review every time she had made a commit. So.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's just another way of doing it, and it makes it easier on Wing, so he doesn't have to, keep a keen eye on all the code every time people are making commits to the repo.
That's interesting. So that's a library. What if I wanted to share a script? Or let's say to use one of Wing's scripts. The messages, the script that cleans up messages in Cascade. Let's say I just wrote a script, and I wanted to share it with the world, with you guys, so that you guys don't have to start from scratch. You can just use my code. Would that be a branch or a fork or?
It could be either or. I guess it just all depends on how you wanted to manage it. If you're just talking about code snippets, like examples or how to do something, or you're just trying to do an educational thing, I would say GitHub does have a thing called Gist or Gist, and it's kind of their code on-the-fly code sharing paste bin type of thing, where you can just copy bits and pieces of code from anywhere into that and then share it with the outside world. And it's nice and formatted, but I mean, if you're talking about structural code, stuff that's steeped in the infrastructure of Wing's library, let's say, you can, since it is a public repo, you can just point people to a specific URL in the code base, in the source, and just browse through the source on GitHub.
I guess a better example would be if. And I'm not suggesting, Wing, that you do this, but for the next Hangout, let's say there was an example script that he wanted to share with the group. Is that something that would be good? Would be could be done on GitHub?
Oh, Wing or me?
No, yeah, to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it can be done. I mean, I've shared my little connection thing that I did once with you guys on. Well, at first I started with Pastebin or something, but I noticed that you guys couldn't access it. So then I switched over to GitHub's GIST, G-I-S-T. It's called. It's gist.github.com, and you pretty much can link. You can tag things with that repo name to the code, so you know where those examples are being applied to, let's say. And I would say in this case, if Wing had a piece of code that he wanted to share on how to connect to the WSDL, or like have us giving us a start-off point for a project that he wants us to do and in the learning process, that's where he would do it. It's just easier to access that way without mucking around in the repo.
Just okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know how you pronounce it, gist or gist. It's like I don't know whether to say Eric Gorka or Eric Jorka.
Yeah, or like GIF or GIF, like.
Right, exactly,
Okay.
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
again,
to-
if
to
you
say-
guys have questions, let me know.
To say it right up front, probably I will need a lot of help from you guys concerning like setting up GitHub, the initial commit and gist and whatever. I've never used GitHub before, so but I will post my questions on the discussion forum for this group, so everybody can see what I'm running into, my questions, and so on and so forth. And anybody can help. Okay. On this topic, I'm a real beginner. Okay. Right now, I still don't know anything about GitHub, so I'll try. I'll try my best, and I'll ask a lot of questions, and any help will be appreciated.
All right, I'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
That sounds good. I think that's a great idea. I think I'll go ahead and create a category in our Google group just about GitHub.
Okay.
You have already created a category.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, doing like 10 different things. Cool. Any other questions or comments on GitHub or the next Hangout?
For me right now, it's too early to ask questions because even if I try, it won't make sense because I don't know anything to start from. So I need to try it, play with it before I can even like ask meaningful questions.
Yeah, Wing, if you want to set up a separate offline chat to kind of step through it, let me know.
Give me some time first. I really want to like try it myself.
Sure.
Before, I ask any questions.
Yeah.
Because unless I have someone like sitting with me to do it together. Otherwise, I would rather like do it first. When I run into a dead end or whatnot, I will ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how I learned it. I just sat down and trial and error, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think, from my experience, it's the kind of thing where repetition helps. Like once a week or something.
Yeah, with like anything, just practice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how. I mean, when I learned it first, I just had a bunch of little like to-do files, and like I made like Mark had done. Just make a little change here, do it, then play around with it, find another way, make a mistake, make your commits collide with each other so that it creates an error. I mean, you can't. The thing about Git is that you can't really mess things up unless unless you're like really into just hacking away at it, you could. But the idea is that the master, the head copy of, they call it the header is the copy that's untouchable. You can't scribble in that. You can't mess it up, unless you're the administrator of the repo and you want to mess up your repository, or there's a commit error, and the commit errors protect that from happening. it makes it just, you'll see when it happens. You'll see, oh, okay, I get this. And the neat thing too is one of the things I like about Git over the older versions is that it's a lot friendlier to see the code separation. So let's say two people commit code, you can see the blocks where the errors are, and it'll mark them really well. So you could just do a Control F and then search for that error, and then make the judgment call as far as what bits of code you want to merge between those two differences. It's a lot easier in Git. I think what really turned a lot of people off with versioning is that the older repo systems didn't make it easy for you to find the problems in the merges or the commits. And I think for me, it definitely turned me off from using them.
Right.
Yeah. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, you're talking about like where it'll highlight text in red if it's different.
Yeah.
Green and yeah.
I think Stu had mentioned it. Where you're in source tree and you can see the red and green and yellow lines. Where bad things are happening, and when you see that, you know where to look and where not to look, and that makes it so much easier and a little bit more friendly to say, okay, this red text here and where this marker is where I need to focus, rather than 1,000 lines of code that you have to plow through to find two separate areas of mistakes. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, source tree is really helpful with that. You wouldn't get that with the command line, I don't think.
No. So Wing, I'm not an expert or at that level as, like Chris and Mark, but I'm also here if you need,
Sure.
help.
Thanks first.
We're here for you, Wing. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, I'll give it a try.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. Any other comments? All right.
Well, if no questions, I want to spend a few minutes on what you guys want me to do. I mean, in episode 2. Of course, I have my own plan. Okay, but do you have anything you want specifically? Topics, approaches, whatnot. Any feedback?
No. None here so far. I mean, I noticed that you guys were having some problems with timeouts, and I was watching some of the conversations going on the forum, on the group. I mean, I think maybe addressing that somehow in more detail.
Sure.
I posted a question. A couple people have answered about what applications people want to use web services for, and the reason I did that was to hopefully help Wing know where to focus his examples. Like for me, currently I'm focusing more on things related to content, whether it's pages or blocks and stuff like that, versus users and groups. But either way, I still find concrete examples, even if it's not applicable to me right now, extremely useful to learning how to use a library.
Yeah, it's a good launch-off point.
Yeah. So that's all I would say, Wing, is I like it when you give us an exercise or a script that does a small task.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I from this point on, as I told you, I probably won't give you a lot of code to try. Instead, we'll write the code together, and you can try it right at the moment when you write it, and when you see problems and so on and so forth, we can talk about those problems. But I agree. Probably I should spend more time on as a tree traversal. I plan to do 2-3 meetings, okay, on like how to like deal with as a tree traversal, because that's basically, if I have to force it, okay, that's the backbone of my entire library. Once you like get used to like as a tree traversal, you see from that point on you use it almost like every time when you write some script.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that, or I have seen that.
I feel like that's all I do in PHP, traversing data. Period.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds good, Wing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Wing. I like the idea of us writing it together, but maybe also having a working version so that at the end, those of us who
Sure.
run into errors, we could just download a working version.
Sure. Well, let's say if we like write some code together and say that then I post my code, so everybody can have a copy.
Sorry, you just froze there. I think somebody was watching YouTube.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. After it, like a meeting, I would like make sure my code still works, and then I'll post the code for everybody to try out. Most likely, the code I'm going to write won't have any like business logic in it, so that it should be like good for everybody. But then it will be like simple code. It won't involve too much, okay? Because I mean, once you start looking at business logic, then the code won't be reusable by other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea too, Wing.
Yep. And of course, I can still supply you with like long scripts, okay? The scripts I'm using or I'm writing right now. But then, I mean, it's just like an example. You can't really run it.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good, Wing. Well, that's a month from now almost, right?
Yep.
So
Oh, wow.
doesn't seem like that long. Or it seems longer than it probably will be.
It'll go by quick.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask a question. Okay. Well, let's spend at most 5 minutes on this topic. I want to ask a question. Are you guys like doing anything like related to responsive design, or like do you have any plan to, I don't know, rebuild everything? Let me just put it this way. The reason why I asked this is this. Okay. Next time when we meet to talk about like administrative tools, okay, I will address the design issue properly. Basically, for example, okay, give you one concrete example. Let's say if you have a fixed structure in every site, then you can basically traverse your entire Cascade instance, okay, assuming you have a fixed structure in a site. Then you can write a script to like visit every part of it. For example, if you like need to set the permission like to the asset factory container, let's say, okay, I assume, okay, you always use the same name. Then basically you can like say, okay, traverse the entire instance, visit every site, go to a certain like container name this way, and do something with the asset factories.
Yeah.
I would talk about things like these. But then, I mean, I assume, okay, you will have like a well-defined business logic built into your Cascade instance. We'll talk about things like these. That's why I want to ask, okay, do you have any plan like rebuilding things like responsive design?
I could say, Wing, that I can relate to that because we're about halfway through the responsive redesign, where we're basically just changing the content type on every page.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I want to like address some issues related to this process. For example, for one good example, how to like design your data definitions for blocks and for pages. That will affect how you use web services.
I'd have to refer to either Jim for that one or Todd. He's our design guy. But I know that we do have something set up on there where we want to like push out the templates to all of our site assets on campus. But I'm not familiar how Todd has that set up right now. I would have to pass that on to him to kind of explain that. Because we've run into a lot of situations where we're like, okay, how would we get these files to our campus assets, to other people on campus who don't work in our office, when we're trying to release a new site design, whether that be responsive design or not. But we are trying to, we're trying to push out a brand, so we want everybody to kind of use the same container. But to accomplish that, we'd have to have something on the Cascade side to kind of generate the template for them, so that they would have it for their entire site. But yeah, again, I'm just speaking off of meetings that we've had and discussions that we've had on the fly. I'm sure your library would help in that process, but we haven't really come up with a strategy on the coding end, on the back end to conquer that, if that's a problem that we're having still.
I'll have to do some research too. So it's good to know that's a topic
Mm-hmm.
to talk about.
Yeah, I mean Jim I think could speak to that if he's still around. I see he's still on here, but he could probably address that for you, Wing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, just to give you like some pointers, okay. For example, how you name, how you give identifiers to a data definition will affect how you use web services.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about like identifiers and so on and so forth, but
that would be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I want to at least call your attention to one thing, okay. While you're looking at web services, try to tie it with your daily chores, especially if you are really doing a redesign and you need to rebuild everything. Then I want to highlight different parts, okay, how to do certain things so that it will make your life a lot easier if you use web services to automate everything.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think for me and probably some other people, I don't know how to navigate through Cascade to get to that point. Like, okay, where do I start with the WSDL and to gather all the resources that I need to, let's say, create a new website for somebody. So yeah, I mean, like Eric was saying, if we could have more examples. But yeah, just I guess the need for examples in that case for me would be helpful. But yeah, so if I think you're talking about episode 2, right? In what to present.
Yeah. Episode 2. Part of the reasons why I brought this up is I'm actually re-implementing my RWD design again. It's like the second version of it, and because I've been doing that, version 1, version 2, I noticed, okay, there are a lot of things that I did quite, let me put it this way, optimize for web services. So, for example, how I design my data definitions, how I ID them, ID those nokes, that will help me a lot, okay? Because when I do that, I always have web services in mind. How do I automate the process? And when I give them IDs and so on and so forth, okay, because I need to use web services, I should do it this way, not that way. I want to highlight these parts.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to know what to watch out for.
Yep.
To be aware of what can be done to be optimal.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, for one thing, Eric, you told me that you are right in the process of doing responsive design. Well, one thing for sure, okay. Well, if you want to switch content types, okay, you want to keep all the identifiers untouched. You can introduce new identifiers, but you don't want to change old identifiers from A to B. You never want to do that.
Right. That's tip number one. Yeah.
Well, that's like, I mean, to draw on a metaphor, I mean, it's like changing the unique identifier in a database table of that row.
Yep,
You know, if you
precisely.
change that, it's lost forever, and you
Yep.
lose that data point. So.
Of course, we will address the issues of like really like changing the identifiers, what to do next, okay? But at least we want to like stick with the old identifiers so that we won't lose anything, especially when you're working with web services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about these things later, okay?
I know that like Todd, when we did not this design that we're coming out with soon, but the previous one, we depended a lot on the slug names of the pages and blocks and stuff like that, and the data definition. So we were really opening up, especially even for folders, even for directories, we'd make a slug name a field for that, and that would be our reference point separate of the identifier. And that helped us generate menus on the fly, which we were using PHP code separately to do. This is ages before your WSDL library. That's, I guess, one approach is, creating a data field, a custom data field in the data definition that would handle the like a sibling identifier for every asset in Cascade. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely I think a problem that a lot of people run into.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that with a lot of content management systems. It's not just unique to Cascade, where you have no way of having your own custom identifier. You're always dependent on the identifier of the application itself, and you either don't see that ever, or if you need to change it, you can't. And it's not very useful for the front end either if you need to make some decisions in the template somehow, or whatever. So it's not useful to you. It's useful for the application. But I don't know. I mean, you guys, if you can, try to ping Todd about that, my colleague, because he designed that up, and I remember that was very helpful for him to handle things like menu items in the top, and then sub menu items that belong to the entire site structure, and that would kind of help him put the titles on a page and do other things in the whole makeup of the site structure. So
Interesting.
yeah, I'm not doing it any justice by trying to describe it, but
I think we're getting the gist. No pun intended.
okay. All right, right on.
Cool. What else, Wayne?
Well, that's it. I look forward to like the next meeting, and
Yeah, same
we'll
here.
see.
I'm sorry I've been offline lately. I've been running around. I've taken some vacation time, so and I know. And Christmas time was kind of hectic too. So,
Yeah.
but I'm back.
Good to have you back, Chris.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. So, well, if there's nothing else, Wayne,
Well, that's it for the moment. Yep.
sounds good. All right.
All right.
So, yeah, Wayne, let us know how we can help.
Okay, sure. I'll keep everybody posted.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
you see my questions. I mean, if I have one.
Definitely.
No problem. We won't be offended
Thanks a
if
lot,
you
Russ.
don't.
All right, guys. Well, we'll check back in about a month.
Okay. See you then.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See you, James.
Okay. So, tell me a bit more about like